It's a fan quick. It seems that after the season 2 finale, the Owl House fandom is on edge. We're probably going to be experiencing the worst. I wonder what Dragon's doing with those cursed ingredients she has.
Alright, a little here, and just a smidge of a touch there. Oh, hey guys! Nice to see you. Oh, I just finished the top 10 best Owl House episodes in Season 2. Behold!
Wait, why is that?
It's in case Bellows or the Collector show up. While we're stuck with another Owl House hiatus, I thought it'd be best to at least set up a list for some of the best episodes of the Owl House Season 2. This is going to focus on all the episodes that have been presented so far in Season 2 that either had a lasting impact on us emotionally, had a huge plot point for the characters, or just simply because it's just stellar. Remember, these are just my opinions alone and you don't have to agree. So without further ado, let's begin. So in the beginning of Season 1, we didn't know too much about Gush's problems, as well as why he strived like crazy to be accepted and wanted, and created that human-loving club. But things definitely take an interesting turn when you get into Labyrinth Runners, which definitely helped flesh out more of his character and how far he had come. So basically, this episode started off where we learned of his situation. He was a prodigy, very skilled and gifted with his illusions, but the problem was a lot of students took advantage of it and thus resulted in him having trust issues. Thankfully, he was able to meet Willow, but it didn't change the fact of how much it hurt.
Ouch! Just when we thought Willow's situation had side was bad enough.
We soon learn later on that Hexside has officially took on multiple tracks now. For example, Matt now does illusions alongside Coven construction, which is very fitting considering his personality. But things get really insane when the head witch Adrian Gray shows up. And for a while, it seemed like Adrian Gray was going to focus on supporting this group and the multi-tracks and protecting Hexside from the convention. However, thanks to Gus,
illusion. Just cut. All right. Couple of notes.
Thankfully, at the same time, we learn about Hunter and was able to rescue Gus, as well as being able to keep himself safe from Emperor Bellows upon learning the truth of who he is and what the plans were. So yeah, he was still not okay. Then, of course, one of the things I'd also like to point out this episode is that we get to learn more of one of the head witches in the Emperor's Coven system, which is Adrian Gray. Oh boy, he's definitely going to be one of the most hated characters in here for more than reasons why, and oh my lord, he's just a piece of work.
Talents, but I realized that a true genius can find the art in everything he does, and hey!
You've done it again, Augustus. You couldn't even tell Willow apart from an illusion.
You, come on, are you listening? This is my monologue. Now, this is...
No one cares! And here's the ultimate cherry on top.
Maybe head witch, but I'm still principal. It'd be wise to let me through.
Oh, heck yes! It was finally time for Principal Bump to lay down the gauntlet, as well as Hexeye finally taking a stand against the Emperor's Coven once and for all. This is something we've been expecting for quite some time now. Also, I feel like, personally, Principal Bump is just done with the BS that the Emperor's Coven had ever since the first day. And also, this is also where the episode kind of put Hunter's redemption in full circle, which is also why it's practically one of the top 10 best episodes, but I feel like there are some episodes that are more deserving of that recognition. When we get first introduced to Kikimora, she had a bit of an air of mystery, and, for weirdly enough, seemed to have a surprising amount of hate, just in one season alone and a short amount of screen time. But her hate started to grow after Eclipse Lake. But then we learned the truth of why she's like this. Apparently, she has a lot of pressure coming from her own family, who want nothing more than to come over to see her family reunion. But, of course, her mom did that sort of threatening thing of like, if you don't come, I'll disown you threat. And that alone is kind of a red flag at this point that sets up so many questions.
Indeed, I do suspect that this could possibly be a toxic relationship between her and her family.
So, not only was this episode a great introduction to the softer side of Kikimora and what her struggles are, but we also get a lovely introduction to the head of the Plant Coven, Terra Snapdragon. A very interesting mix of Gwendolyn Clawthorne with the manipulation of Odalia Blight, not as far as succeeding in terms of manipulation, but also is a major powerhouse. And to make matters worse, there's a result of a major folly between Kiki falling for the whole deal.
Yes, it definitely seemed like Kikimora was the one who committed the folly alongside with Ida and Liz. It was unfortunate, but it definitely seemed like the one turning point in the entire episode for Kiki.
Another thing to add is that we also had another Raida moment, Rain x Ida, for some of you who may not know about the shipping, where Ida tries her best to get Rain to come with her, but they wouldn't have it, and it resulted in probably a somewhat heartbreaking battle between the two. And of course, it was an upsetting defeat for Ida because she wants nothing more than to get back together with Rain. But it was never meant to be, and their situation and rescue mission was a complete and utter fail.
I guess I can understand why it's so early on the list. On the one hand, it gives off a very nice interception about Kikamura's issues, as well as just helping give us a general idea about Rain and Ida's situation. A lot more to come next.
So yeah, any sport in the storm is basically an Willow and Hunter focused episode. So for Hunter's end of a bargain, Hunter has to prove himself worthy of respect from the other Coven heads and has to go to Hexside undercover in order to find it. Little did he know that he was also going to encounter Willow, who's finally overcome her lack of confidence and, of course, found her new abilities. So I guess you could sort of say, in a weird twist of fate, the two meet and it results in a really interesting birth of chemistry, as well as just how far Willow has come as a character, as well as giving Hunter a chance to redeem himself in a way. But again, this is also a birth of Huntlow. Putting the birth of that ship aside, it really does highlight Hunter's character as where he takes things more seriously about his work and tries to help Willow and Gus and the others get away safely, as well as giving him a new sense of identity. What also makes it even more surprising,
I'm impressed.
What?
yeah, we didn't expect a whole lot out of this episode, but here it is. Hunter's birth of redemption, or the turning point of it, Willow's character arc going from shy to becoming stronger than she gives credit for, as well as finally learning a bit more about Darius and that he's a lot nicer than he appears to be, which really wraps up into a really awesome episode, but there's still more to come. Now with this episode, it definitely helps show more of how endearing Hooty has become since season 1. Because, well, in the beginning, he wasn't as endearing as he was in season 2. He kept getting into everyone's business and was always the butt of a joke.
That's exactly how Woody has his birthing episode.
So Hooty lives up to his name as being the Owl House when he has to tackle certain tasks, one of which had to be trying to get Luz to confess her feelings towards Amity through the Tunnel of Love, which was a bit corny for some people, but it was enough to at least let Hooty allow Luz to open up her feelings in a very positive way, as well as helping Ida overcome her past with the curse and unlocking the hidden potential with this brand new power, though it wasn't exactly easy to come to those terms of her past. And to top it all off, he was able to help King unlock his powers and allow him to learn more about himself. And overall, this was a good episode for very good reasons. Not only does it do Hooty some justice, but it also reflected more of Hooty's potential as a character, aside from being always the comic relief. Though some people are a little bit bummed about the letter.
Oh, don't forget about the letter. I know some people were angry about that, but after what happened in 17, I'm pretty sure many people were glad that Hooty stalled.
Secrets galore in Season 2 with Elsewhere and Elsewhen. Luz tries to learn more about Philip and the diary and decides to go back in time with the help of Lilith, who wants nothing more than to have more history exploration and be considered a bad girl historian. When they get to the supposed Savage Ages, they were in for a surprise. Everything was pretty well and happy. I mean, just seeing the truth of what life was like before the rule of the benevolent emperor is just heartbreaking. Though it's of no surprise that once again, Bellows has lied about everything and screwed up history. Here's the worst part.
It doesn't matter. I just need to live long enough to see this through.
Yep, that's basically the major upset for most of the Owl House fans, is that after so many years of these theories, we have confirmation that Bellows is indeed Philip Winterbrain. But overall, Elsewhere and Elsewhen is a very captivating episode that gives off more world building and gives us a general idea of just how corrupted the Emperor's Coven really is, as well as learning a bit more about the origins of one of the greatest Disney villains of all time. King was the least known of the trio at the beginning of Season 1. He was always charismatic and wanting nothing more than to be seen as a mighty and powerful ruler. But when you learn the truth of his origins, it's a lot sadder than most people would think. And when he learns that he wasn't the king of anything, it definitely puts a huge identity crisis for him. And now he's stuck of having to understand of who he really is and where he came from. Things just only get worse from there later on. It didn't exactly help from echoes in the past, where Luz had to pretend to be going along with whatever King said in order to just cheer him up, because, let's face it just only made things so much worse. And speaking of making things worse, we soon finally reach Edge of a World, where King was supposedly going to see his family after Hootie coughed up his letter. Unfortunately, despite our desire for something wholesome, especially after episode 16, which I will get to later, yeah, it was definitely a big letdown because Data Terrace is practically torturing us with emotional pain. So when they soon arrive at the island, Hootie and Luz soon discover a terrifying truth that the people that King supposedly looked to see were nothing more than worshippers of the Collector. To make matters worse, we soon learn that King really is the Titan. After all this time of speculating, it has now been 100% confirmed. At this rate, Season 2 has nothing been more building up to King's character of going from this crazy little demon who wants to be ruled and feared and respected into just this confused kid who wants to figure out who he is. Y'all knew I couldn't complete this list without at least one episode of Rain and Ida, and what better episode of when they first met. So to top it all off, we have Terra Snapdragon at the age of her prime, and of course in her insane glory.
Don't get me started with her. Even just the mere mention of her name makes plants grow out of control in this castle. I really don't want to meet her. Anyone have some weed killer?
Putting that this pressing tidbit aside, we soon learn more about Ida and Rain as individuals, as well as how they first become a couple. Even their first meeting is actually flat out adorable. Rain immediately accepting Ida as the one colorful individual, as well as we learn very interesting skill set that Rain has, and proven useful later on. Over time, even just one day alone, these two just hooked up, and even I loved their relationship in this episode just as much as in Ida's Requiem. Also, going back to what I said earlier, in the major plot twist that earned this spot on the list is where Rain is secretly hiding the fact that they weren't brainwashed, but trying to create a special operation where they would help Ida succeed in taking down the Emperor, as well as we learn the truth about the draining spell. So this was basically considered the darkest hour for the Owl House crew. They are without their home and they have no plan whatsoever. However, this doesn't stop Luz from coming up with an idea of doing a small heist in hopes of just helping King out with his own problems while he himself goes on a special trip. This is also where we see the highlights of Luz and Ida's relationship evolved from season 1. Luz is upset that she can't be of help and is forced to be put on the sidelines, which is understandable, but at the same time Ida just wants the best interest for her of keeping her safe because, again, she has no plan and they're going in this blind. Again, one of the things you gotta like about this episode is just how far the relationship has come from being a very concerning and possibly manipulative relationship into practically a mother-daughter relationship we can't help but find very wholesome. And even before they could get everything executed well, the duo get caught, and for sure it looked like it was game over for the group. Thankfully, there was a string of hope we all desperately needed. Luz soon finds the Cats, a resistant group that's supposed to help out whenever possible. So of course, it definitely is a very interesting relationship, which is why I put this episode further up on the list. Not only does it show a good reflection, but it also brings hope to the table and a sense of relief to what has been transpired earlier. Let's just hope that things get better by season 3. And of course, maybe y'all know where this is going to go by the end of season 2. And there's more pain to come. These episodes were so good, I just had to throw in a twofer.
You nervous? You haven't been home in like how many hundreds of years? What if it's all
While that ominous conversation is going on, Amity is trying her hardest to actually convince her parents to stop the automatons during the Day of Unity. The worst part is, Aldor's the only parent who's questioning this, while Odalia is brushing this off. But one of the biggest reasons I put Clouds on the Horizon on this list and further up is because
It'll be awesome. I know. Oh, crikey. I can't believe I just did.
it happened, ladies and gentlemen. It officially happened. For the first time ever in the Disney franchise, they actually did an on-screen lesbian kiss and a first ever LGBTQ scene in forever.
thoroughly ahead of the rest. You're welcome, everyone. There you go, making that face. This is why I don't tell you things. With the Emperor's favor, we'll live like royalty in the new world. Crowns and everything.
This is too much, even for you.
Last very long.
As you can see, this is the episode where you begin to hate Odalia more than ever. I mean, escaping expulsion was bad enough of being a controlling mother as well as a controlling wife, but this definitely takes her toxic person on a whole new level. She was willing to sell out her own kind just for the sake of some empty promises from a man he barely knew and supposedly gained a higher power from very dark purposes. But again, I appreciate of just how far Amdi came, and not only that, but it's also a nice reflection of how far the Blight twins and Alador have come far in terms of being this extremely toxic family into realizing of just how messed up their dynamic is and finally cutting ties with the very person that made them so twisted in the first place. And though it resulted in a very unresolved and chaotic situation at the end of the episode, it was still very satisfying to see Lumity kiss once and for all. In King's Tide, things take a change for the worst. Bellows basically knows something's up with the arrangement and decides to play on a major switcheroo at the last minute. And Terra Snapdragon and Grey of all people. Yeah, this once again just shows of how much of a smarty that Bellows is. He may be thousands of years old, but he still has a brain somewhere and knows how to use it to his own advantage.
Taught you magic stronger than anybody's.
And that's why I won't release you. Can't have you giving that to anyone else. Goodbye. Go find a hole to wither away in.
Well, I didn't find it too much of a surprise that Bellows will practically betray those two, and it's of no surprise he's gonna pull off one of the biggest mistakes in the book. However, what does surprise me is the Collector's appearance and their powers.
You wanna play tag? I'm it. Okay, we're leaving now.
So yeah, another biggest thing that I want to highlight here is Luce's intelligence. She knows how to play with this dude's ego and use it against him. You have to admit, Luce is very smart, but it didn't exactly stop the hideous and obscene transformation that lies before us in the most horrific and disturbing way possible. But what makes it even more upsetting is the finale of the episode. King sacrificing himself in order to save Luce and the others in order to escape to the human world. And as if that wasn't insult to injury enough at this point, and yeah, just the rain alone represented just the emotional pain that everyone was going through. Gus, Willow, Hunter, Amdi, all taken away from the home that they knew, possibly warped into the reality of an almighty being. But here's some insult to injury. Oh, come on, are you kidding me? Not only was this bad enough with the Collector's Luce, but we still have Bellows to deal with, and he's back into the human world just as he wanted. But will it be what he imagined? And what's the worst to come? So it definitely intrigues the season 3 concept and what's more to come in the most bittersweet reunion ever. So, as a special presentation, there's a big reminder of why this episode is number 1 is mostly because...
No!
Ah! Why can't you let me do this? So anyway, this is basically the episode that broke the Owl House fandom. And of course, we soon learn more about Emperor Bellows in more ways than one, as we follow Luz and Hunter throughout the Emperor's literal mind, each truth becoming more disturbing and upsetting the next, not only for Hunter, but as well as for Luz. This was just very hard information to swallow, as if that alone wasn't painful enough, we get to meet the jolly old collector. And we also learn about the whole concept of the key, as well as it might entail, but one theory after another led us to some of the most shocking revelations ever.
I'm feeling better already. Thank you for distracting it.
What did you do to the other cards? To our family? It wasn't wild magic, was it?
What a shame. Out of all the Grimwalkers, you look the most like him.
What?
Doesn't belong to me. No.
Astounding.
It's okay. We can help. I know you want to get home, but nothing is worth hurting people.
I just need to live long enough to see this.
While the group was able to manage to get out, barely, it was by then that the reality of the situation sunk in for the both of them. Hunter now realizing that his whole entire life was nothing more than a sad, tragic lie, and that he has to hide himself because he now knows the truth, and Bellows will kill him if he so much as spills it, as well as Luz, now dealing with the fact that she inadvertently helped this man destroy all magic, as well as over the witches and demons of a place that she once called home. This is emotionally upsetting for both fans and Luz alike. I mean, it's just painful, the mere idea of what Hunter has to see of the traumatizing truth that had to be known in order for his redemption to work, as well as Luz having to learn about the consequences of her actions in the most horrific way possible. And of course, it set off a lot of theories. Now, is that so bad? Oh boy. Looks like I'm off to fix my familiars with some ice cream and possibly some popcorn. I'll probably have to find some feel-good movies later. So what do you guys think? What were some of the best episodes in Season 2? Feel free to do a comment and subscribe. Remember to also leave a comment and a like. This is Dragon Videos, signing off.